A local person for today we'd like to start off with is القناعي. He is the very first flight license where he'd be able to fly as a pilot privately, and this is the first time in Kuwait that he has done this, and in the region as well. We'd like to rediscover his life through the following report.
Our success story today would shed light on the first Kuwaiti private pilot holding the first private light flight license. Badr Khalid al-Badr al-Qanai, known as the most popular pillar of Kuwaiti aviation, is the first private licensed pilot in the state of Kuwait. He is considered one of the most important figures in the literature, media, and journalism in Kuwait. He is the founder of the major role in the establishing of Kuwait today in the 1950s and played a major role in establishing Al-Arabi magazine. Badr al-Qanai was born on the 11th of December 1912 in Kuwait City. When he was 6 years old, he went to an informal school and learned to read and write. And in 1921, when he was 9 years old, he accompanied his father to the Iraq and joined a formal school in Basra to complete his studies. In 1925, his beloved father passed away, and he was placed under the legal custody of his older brother. He could not finish his high school due to the malaria and caused him to quiet his education for a whole year. In 1931, Badr al-Qanai decided to travel to Lebanon to finally complete his studies. He encountered many difficulties at first especially when he began to learn English, but with the perseverance, he was able to learn and then finish high school in 1932. When he was 20 years old, he returned to Kuwait for a short period. Then he traveled to India, where he was encouraged by the presence of his relatives in India to study the English language. His passion for aviation science started in India and started to read more about aviation and flying. He read many magazines pertaining to aviation. In 1933, when he returned to Kuwait, he mentioned to his family of his aspiration to study aviation, but his family did not take him seriously. But due to his stubbornness and persistence, he traveled the same year to England, specifically to Southampton, where the Humble School of Aviation was located, to become a pilot. He completed his studies in the 23rd of May 1934. He obtained flight certification number 6529, which was used to pilot non-commercial aircraft, making him the very first pilot in history of Kuwait to hold a private aviation license. During his job in the Department of Knowledge and Information, he thought of finding a new way to publish all governmental information and newspapers in one magazine. Hence, he proposed to publish an official newspaper. For this purpose, he wrote a letter to the Director of Knowledge and Information Department, Khalid who presented this proposal to the Supreme Executive Committee, which also welcomed this idea and agreed to issue the official newspaper under the name of Kuwait Today. He later became the very first director of the official Kuwaiti newspaper in 1955. In 1959, Badr suggested to Sheikh Sabah al-Ahmed to establish a committee to study and document the history of Kuwait. His suggestion was approved and he was appointed as the member of committee. This idea was born out of his visit to London's Museum of Archaeology. He served in many prominent roles and positions in the government sector and was bestowed of the title ambassador. Pilot Badr al-Janai died on Thursday, the 10th of September 2015 at the age of 104 and was buried in Kuwait.